This podcast is made possible by you, the supporters of WPLN and WNXP, Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's May 26th, 2026. On this day in 1908, one American family completed a truly epic road trip. Mr. and Mrs. Jacob Murdoch and their children were the first ever family to travel all the way across the United States in an automobile. Highways, as we know them, weren't a thing yet. Interstates were far off in the future at that point. Some parts of the country didn't have much in the way of paved roads. And to make it work, they did bring a mechanic along for the ride, along with 1,200 pounds of supplies. But they made it all the way to New York from Pasadena, California. It took them 32 days in a Packard 30 touring car. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with some context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. Now that Memorial Day is in the rearview, it's officially road trip season. Here in Middle Tennessee, we are especially well situated for hitting the road in whatever direction we want. But actually, even within the state, there are quite a few designated routes for scenic drives where the driving is as much the point as the destination. Now, before I get into it, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while and this sounds a little familiar, I did take on a similar topic right around Memorial Day last year, but I've got different things to highlight this time. And I might add, this time last year, I told you about a different landmark road trip from history. There's just something about the end of May, the start of summer, that has always been peak time for hitting the road. But back to our roads in Tennessee. Like I was saying, you don't have to drive far to have a memorable vacation-worthy drive, which is good if you have the itch for an epic wander in your car but can't afford a long trip with the current elevated gas prices. So if you've ever noticed a state highway sign topped with a picture of a mockingbird, that means at least a section of the road has been designated as a Tennessee Parkway. That means it's been recognized. It's going through an area with attractive views. And it means that local government is committed to zoning that places some limits on outdoor advertising and prevents unsightly businesses like junkyards from opening up within view of the parkway. The next step up from Tennessee Parkways are the state-designated scenic highways. Those have signs that plainly designate them as scenic. To qualify, a stretch of road has to be pretty, but it also has to be a viable alternative to a more heavily trafficked alternative. Those are meant to truly be off the beaten path. And in addition to restrictions similar to those along parkways, there's a height restriction for buildings along scenic highways to make sure those pretty views don't get blocked. The most outstanding parkways and scenic byways in the state are also designated as national scenic byways, and Tennessee has 9 of those. Beyond those zoning protections, the federal government requires there to be a byway organization for each route. That's a board of local stakeholders that meet regularly and work to protect whatever qualities make the road scenic or special. There's federal grant money available to help with maintenance and qualifying projects in the area, and the state's Highway Beautification Office helps out too. Now, just to be clear, scenic can be more than just a pretty view. The bigger definition used to designate these roads is more along the lines of there's something worth seeing there. It can be gorgeous nature, of course, or it can be places of historic or cultural importance, archaeological sites, or great recreational opportunities. Now, there are 3 long multi-state scenic byways with sections in Tennessee. These are part of a collection known as the Great American Roads. One has a terminus right here in Nashville, the Natchez Trace Parkway. If you haven't driven on it, the Natchez Trace goes all the way to Natchez, Mississippi, with lots of stops along the way where you can take a hike or enjoy a scenic overlook. The speed limit's low, and it tends to bypass towns rather than travel through them, but that's the point of that parkway. The drive itself is a change of pace from normal life. The Great River Road runs parallel to the Mississippi River. It's actually not one road, but a route that takes you on scenic portions on a number of smaller highways. Over on the east end of the state, Newfound Gap Road is the 31-mile stretch of roadway through the Great Smoky Mountains National Park that connects Gatlinburg with Cherokee, North Carolina. There are, of course, a number of smaller scenic byways in the state as well. Here in Middle Tennessee, the Woodlands Trace starts near Dover in Stewart County and runs through the length of land between the lakes. Because it is inside a national recreation area, there's no development at all on this drive. But along the way, there is an elk and bison sanctuary that you can drive through, as well as a living history museum showing what 19th century homesteads were like. Starting over on the Upper Cumberland Plateau, the Cumberland Historic Byway offers views of unusual geological formations as it travels through historic Native American hunting grounds. It also passes through uniquely historic sites like World War I hero Alvin C. York's birthplace and Rugby, which was founded as a sort of utopia for Victorian-era English immigrants. Now, there is one scenic byway that curves a path touching all three of the state's grand divisions. It's basically the Tennessee version of the Great River Road, called the Tennessee River Trail Byway. It starts in Clarksville and follows along the courses of several rivers, spending a lot of time hugging the Tennessee River, with a stretch that cuts along the state's southern border, then picking up with the Tennessee again in Chattanooga and following it to Knoxville. Whichever road you choose, here's hoping you're able to get out at least a little bit this summer for a change of scenery. In just a few minutes, most local school districts may be out for the summer, but educators are thinking ahead to figure out how the next academic sessions can cut down on screen time. That's coming up after the newscast.
Here's a curious Nashville question. Whatever happened to the highly touted all-electric buses that WeGo ran for free in downtown? Short answer, they stopped in 2021. Then the manufacturer went bankrupt. So Nashville isn't alone in shelving EV buses. Nashville is finally removing its 2 obsolete bus chargers. So in just 11 years, we've gone from the first hyped ride on an EV bus to no sign they were ever here.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. Nashville's police department is seeking more officers to patrol in the downtown tourism district, and the announcement of the 2030 Super Bowl coming to town could further raise this need. That's one insight from the department's $355 million budget presentation to Metro Council. For WPLN News, Emily West reports.
Nashville Police Chief John Drake said he had one ask ahead of the Super Bowl: an additional $5 million for the entertainment district.
In the world in which we live, visible, on-duty police officers are essential for a downtown such as ours.
That unit polices Lower Broadway on its busiest nights. Officers answer all kinds of calls, from shootings to drunken brawls. Right now, the unit works in concert with private security that's funded in part by the nonprofit Nashville Downtown Partnership. Councilmember Zulfat Swara asked why MNPD couldn't answer all the needs.
Can you walk me why we still need that when we have MNPD there? And why is MNPD not covering all the things that need to be done downtown?
The chief said the answer boils down to a lack of resources, now and for the foreseeable future. Emily West, WPLN News.
Drake says the downtown unit currently has 45 officers, but he would like to see it funded for 60. Nashville's police department will be testing drones to respond to emergency police and fire calls. Beginning today, MNPD will employ a drone as first responder trial program, which will run for up to 45 days. The program will only be in operation within a 2-mile radius around the Madison precinct. The drones will be controlled by police officers who have received special training. They'll be used in response to emergencies, criminal investigations, missing persons, and significant traffic crashes. They will not be used for monitoring or general surveillance. According to MNPD, the drones do not use facial recognition software, and footage from the devices will not be shared with immigration authorities. Nashville is not the first city to use drones to respond to emergencies. The approach dates back to 2018 and is in use in places like Chula Vista, California, and Dearborn, Michigan. Nashville property valuations and the resulting tax bills have been generating controversy from businesses that fear they'll have to close because of the costs. Starting today, owners can begin formally appealing their assessments. WPLN's Tony Gonzalez reports some properties have already gotten adjustments.
Nearly 3,000 property owners asked the assessor's office for what's known as an informal review. WPLN asked for the data and found that almost half got their values lowered. Those outcomes add up. Values came down by a total of $54 million, which will impact tax bills. Still, some owners who still disagree with assessments can now pursue more formal appeals. There's now a 1-month window to ask for one of those.
Property appeals are heard by the Board of Equalization. You can visit WPLN.org to read more about the process, including the phone number to call for an appointment. Meanwhile, a new state law could also have an impact for some tax bills in the heart of Nashville. After outcry over taxes, the state created a fund that allows businesses within what's known as the Tourism Development Zone to get tax relief. That area is roughly 3 square miles around downtown. Some businesses are applauding the relief, though even Nashville's mayor has questioned the fairness of a policy helping only that area. 2 newly appointed members of Metro Nashville's Airport Authority Board cast their first votes last week on a measure that aims to keep them in their seats for more than just a couple of months. Metro has always appointed the members of its airport authority, but this session, the legislature passed a law that takes over the leadership of all major airports across the state and replaces their boards with mostly state-appointed members. That law is set to take effect July 1st. Last week, Nashville's airport board, including those 2 new members, voted unanimously to oppose the law. The Nashville Business Journal reports more than half a dozen lawyers were present for the vote, including Metro's law director Wally Dietz, who interrupted a planned beach vacation to attend. Dietz delivered the resolution to the Federal Aviation Administration along with a separate resolution from Metro asking the agency to rule that the local board members should remain in power until the dispute with the state is resolved. Well, Metro Nashville is suing Publix, claiming its pharmacies helped fuel the opioid epidemic. The city is seeking to recover taxpayer dollars it spent on responding to a surge in opioid addiction and overdoses. In the suit, the city alleges that Publix conspired to distribute substantial amounts of opioid prescriptions while knowing that they were being trafficked or used illicitly. Metro officially filed the public nuisance lawsuit in federal court this month, though the legal action dates back years. Metro sought to make the claim as early as 2023, but it was bundled with other cases since so many localities nationwide were looking to file similar suits. Nashville was officially unbundled this month, allowing it to file in U.S. District Court in Tennessee. Publix settled a similar lawsuit in Georgia last year. A bill signing by Tennessee's governor has prompted an immediate lawsuit from pharmacy giant CVS. The flurry of action took place Friday. The governor approved a law that cracks down on vertical integration in healthcare. The so-called Fair Rx Act goes after companies like CVS, which owns a pharmacy chain, and the major insurance company Aetna, and clinics, and a corporate drug negotiator. The new law says companies can only own one of those. The goal is to keep the industry competitive and costs down. In the lawsuit, CVS says its practices are lawful and that small pharmacies want the help of lawmakers to run out their competitors. CVS says the law unconstitutionally discriminates against out-of-state companies. It has maintained that it would be forced to close all 134 of its Tennessee retail pharmacies. Cinema Sisters, the nation's only all-lesbian film festival, isn't where most people might expect it to be. Derek Operly with the Appalachia Mid-South Newsroom reports the celebration of sapphic storytelling turned 10 years old this weekend in western Kentucky.
The organizer of Cinema Sisters, inspired by a celebration of women's creativity in Michigan, wanted to bring a new tradition to downtown Paducah. And now, a decade later, the festival boasts screenings, filmmaking workshops, slam poetry, live music, and more. Washington, D.C. filmmaker Jennifer Trujillo fell in love with the festival last year because of the way it amplifies women's stories.
Our voices are not the leading voices that you hear. We don't get amplified enough. We don't get a chance enough. And Cinema Sisters cares about celebrating women-led films.
More than 20 films screened during Cinema Sisters, many of them made by women who learned how to tell their stories from the annual 4-day festival. For the Appalachia Mid-South Newsroom, I'm Derek Operly in Paducah, Kentucky.
The autonomous vehicle company Waymo is pulling its cars from Nashville's highways. News station WKRN reports Waymos will be available only for surface street trips in Music City. It's a temporary pause to give the software time to get better at navigating construction zones. Earlier this month, the company recalled nearly 4,000 cars. That included its entire Nashville fleet. Software was failing to assess flood risks and needed an update. The vehicles were not pulled from the roads then. Instead, software updates were made at depots between trips. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Tennessee lawmakers have passed a slew of bills addressing technology's place in the classroom, including a cell phone ban implemented last year. And new legislation limits screen time in public elementary schools. WPLN education reporter Camelia Burris got a glimpse at what that could look like during a visit to a private school in Nashville where students already use minimal technology.
Fourth graders at Linden Waldorf School are singing a song during their Mandarin class while making Mother's Day cards. The school serves kids in pre-K to 8th grade and prioritizes hands-on learning, nature, and emotional development. It has a low-tech approach. Students write papers by hand, and they say they're more focused than their peers who use screens at school.
I think the technology that they have in the class, like a lot of times instead of like paying attention, they like play games on their computers, and then they end up like failing the class. So I'm actually kind of grateful that we don't have that distraction, so I can like focus more on like my actual schoolwork and like my grades and stuff.
The new Tennessee law requires schools with kids in kindergarten to 5th grade to minimize the use of screens. The bill originally pushed for a total ban on educational devices like Chromebooks for young students. The measure's sponsor, Representative Michelle Renaud, cited neuroscience research.
Students consistently comprehend and retain more when learning from paper and direct instruction than from screens, especially when material is complex or foundational.
Experts also say that too much screen time can cause kids to struggle with attention, emotions, and social connection. Based on findings like these, the Linden Waldorf School has students writing their own textbooks using information they hear from their teachers. And one 8th grader at Linden says she developed better social skills after transferring from a school that relied more on technology.
We did read, but we didn't read quite as much, I feel like, and the gift we would get for being a good class would be let's play games on the iPad, and I think that's wasn't as helpful for me.
So what do Linden students do with their free time?
Since we finished the class early, we just spent the last bit of class just playing volleyball outside. Or we get study hall and we can catch up on homework or read, or just sometimes we just get the guitar out and just sing. Yeah. Or sometimes we nap. Yeah, in a beanbag. Cuddle puddle. Yeah.
However, even in this school, staff recognize that this low-tech approach to learning could impact students as they move to high school where technology use is more prevalent. So, by the 6th grade, students get Chromebooks that they can use minimally to conduct research through library catalogs and other educational websites. Still, Rachel Peckmeyer, the school's director of admissions, stresses that kids don't need constant stimulation.
As a society, we've forgotten how to rest. We've forgotten how to be still with our bodies creatively. If we can learn how to rest and let the quiet come to us, right?
And Peckmeyer says rest and play fuel the brain.
We know that the brain is actually activating and putting together all the pieces and building those neurons and pathways from the content that the classroom brought them when it's engaged in play.
That's why all students, from young to older, at Linden are free to play outside about twice a day. Camelia Burris, WPLN News.
Thanks for listening to the Nashvillager podcast. We take this look at Nashville news every weekday. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials. It really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.